So hope you all had a fantastic Labor Day weekend. I know I did. And I'm glad to see you all back in here for today. First things first, class announcements for this week. After class today, shortly after class today, I will publish the first quiz. All right, the first quiz will consist of 50 points. It'll be, I still got to tweak one of the questions around, but expect around 15 questions. Okay, so the quiz will be around 15 questions, and it will cover everything that we've gone over in learning module number 1. Okay, so that's just to sum up what's going on with the quiz today. Anything that we talk about today and then moving forward this week, that's stuff that's going to be on quiz number 2. Okay, so we'll talk about just where we want to head this week and what we're doing. So as far as like stuff that's due, we're not going to have anything due for Thursday. I want you guys to focus on getting ready, prepping, and hopefully starting to begin taking that quiz. All right. Coming up over the weekend, we will throw in another CPA that we're going to do over the weekend for class next Tuesday, and that'll be talking about where we're headed next, which is in your books. It is chapter 5, and we're getting into the Greeks. Okay, we're getting into another ancient civilization that is really interesting to talk about, called the Greeks. All right, so if you do want to read ahead, I'll show you kind of what we want to focus on here today. While we're doing this, if you guys want to type into the chat any questions that you want to have. Okay, so good. Luke asked when the quiz is due. I'm giving you a week to complete the quiz. Okay, so the quiz is due by Tuesday, September 15 at 11 a.m. Okay, that you get basically a week from Tuesday to Tuesday to do it. Okay, so everybody's quiz, hopefully, happily, will be in by next Tuesday at the beginning of our Zoom session on September the 15th. Okay, you can turn it in whenever you want. The quiz is timed. Yes, indeed. The quiz, I haven't decided exactly how long just yet. I'm still kind of noodling back and forth between that. But it will be between an hour and an hour and a half to complete the quiz. Okay, I haven't decided. I might give you kind of right in between, like 75 minutes to complete the quiz. I'm still kind of deciding between an hour and a half. On the first one, since it's the first quiz, I'll probably err on the side of longer. Okay, and then I will, as I'm looking through them and assessing them, I'll see how long it took everybody to complete them, and then if we need to shorten it up, we can do that in the future. But kind of game plan in that sort of 75 to 90 minute range. Okay, from when you click begin to when you have to turn it in. So what that means is as we talked about last week, make sure you get all your stuff out around you. Okay, make sure you got your notes, your book. If you get your book on your phone, or if you get your book on like an iPad or something, and you're taking the test on a computer, just make sure you got all the stuff that you need from learning module number 1 to complete the quiz, and then that way you're not hemming and hawing and shuffling and kind of trying to figure out where everything is while your quiz time is running. Okay. What else? We talked last week about the kinds of questions and those types of things. But the last thing I did want to mention is I'm a big fan of picture questions. Okay. Where you see an image and then you have to kind of describe it. And the image is going to be an image that you've seen before. So whenever I ask these image questions, It'll be an image that is either in your textbook or something that showed up in the PowerPoint notes. And then you're going to have to sort of look at it. So, you know, a very famous image that we've looked at, okay, that you can pretty much guarantee is going to be on the quiz, is the one that we looked at when it came to Egyptian mythology. Okay, if you remember, we looked at a scene from the Book of the Dead, where a person has died and they're being led by Anubis to have their heart weighed. Okay, those are kinds of, you know, images that I like to choose and put on quizzes and ask you very open-ended questions, like, can you tell me what's going on here? If somebody were to show you this picture, could you identify the most important things going on here? Okay, those are the kind of history questions that I ask. I'm not going to show you a picture and be like, who is that? Tell me his name or you're wrong and you will not pass. I hate those kind of questions. I like to ask the question where it's like, imagine somebody comes up to you and has this picture and it's like, I don't know what this picture means. Can you help me identify who is in this picture? What's happening? And then you sort of write your answer like you're trying to help this person out, answering that question. Okay, so those are the kind of questions that you're going to deal with today as we move through the quiz in this week. Whenever you want to take it, just make sure it's in by next Tuesday, September the 15th. Any other questions? Like I said, I'll just hang out here for a minute in the chat if you guys want to ask those. It'll be a mix of those multiple answer questions and a mix of you choosing most important factors questions. All right.
So based on interpreting a picture.
I'm sorry, Phil. Wait, ask that again. What did you say?
So basically interpreting the picture.
Yes, and yes, there's a lot, not a lot. There'll be a few questions where I show you a picture and you're going to have to kind of describe what's happening here. And they're all images that you've seen before. They're all images that have appeared in your notes. It's just that the only way that you're going to be able to describe them is if you've prepped and gone over what it is that you've seen. Again, not that difficult. These are not difficult quizzes. I'm not here to trick you. I'm not here to, you know, put you to the test. All these are basically little assessment features of have you been paying attention over the last couple weeks. All right, that's really all they are. And then all of you, hopefully, will crush this, rock it out, and be good to go. Bree asked how many questions there's going to be. Probably, and I probably have to cut a couple off, but I'm looking in the range here of about 15 questions. All right, I got to cut a couple off here and there before I hit publish, but you're looking in the range of 15 questions. So probably, you know, 8 or so of the multiple answer questions where can you identify one, you know, remember what I said about the multiple answer questions, if you know what I mean. And there's usually most often not just one answer. Okay, remember that. And about 7 or so can you identify the most important thing about a certain aspect of the class that we looked at. All right, and then 2 or 3 pictures. 2 or 3 picture questions in those as well. Okay, so like I said, this shouldn't be anything that you know, you gotta go crazy for you know, studying for it. Just make sure you're prepped, you looked at everything, and you know where to access it. Okay, because I'm not a big believer in kind of making you know, and why do I do that? Like, because, you know, when you guys get out into your jobs and into the workforce and into the real world, you're not necessarily going to be required to, I mean, you have to have things that you can recall and rapid recall, but a lot of our jobs, you're able to, find stuff, prep it, look it up, access it. All right. Nobody kind of goes out there, in your job, even if you're like a, I can't even think of jobs off the top of my head, like a chemist or something. And they're like, you are able to access formulas. Okay. You don't have to memorize 150,000 formulas. Sure, you're going to have the ones that stick in your head, certain formulas. I mean, even I remember from chemistry class certain formulas. What's that one? Is moles? Was that like 6 point? What the hell is a mole? 6.02 times 10 to the negative 23rd. Is that what that is? Oh my God! Do you remember that? Oh, I'm having flashbacks.
I can think of one profession you have to memorize a bunch of stuff for.
Yeah, what's that, Phil? Prove me wrong.
Police officers have to memorize laws.
Ah, well, yeah, I guess so. I guess you got to memorize the Miranda rights. You're right, Phil. You proved me wrong. I stand corrected. Huzzah. Yeah, I mean, I guess you got to remember. Yeah, there's certain things. Obviously, you got to memorize certain stuff. Yes. All right. But there's plenty of room for interpretation there. All right. Let me talk about and share my screen here. We'll talk a little bit about where we're going for this week. Okay. So remember, with our textbooks, let me share the screen. Now, when this pops up on your screens, give me a couple of thumbs up. Usually it takes 4 or 5 seconds for it to pop up there. But when you guys see that, maybe a couple thumbs up from those out there that are, yes, good. All right, thank you, Luke. All right, so guys, we're heading into the Greek world. All right, we're heading into the Greek world. And it is the Greeks who take over ruling power in the Mediterranean from the Egyptians. Okay, that's where we're headed this week. How do they do it? What about their culture is interesting? And what can we access from history about who these Greeks were? Okay, so it starts with the introduction, all right, on page 171. Okay, and that's where I want you guys to begin. All right, and I want to look at some questions, all right, that are going to guide our reading. Okay, so that's where I want to head next. I'll scroll past this page 172 real quick, and we'll move into the questions that I want to guide our reading for this week. The big question starts kind of right off the top. Which is geography. Okay. One of the things I want you to focus on this week is Greek geography. What about their land, their aspect, their lifestyle? Where is it? Right there? Good. Question number 1 here. All right. In what ways did the Greek geography impact the history of the ancient Greek world? Okay. That's a big one that I want to focus on over the next couple of days as you make your way through the early parts of chapter 5. Do you got to read the whole chapter this week? No, you don't. Okay. But at least start to make your way through it. Try to get 10 or so pages into it. There's a lot of key terms in this 5.4 section. Don't get bogged down in these key terms. Don't try to write a definition out for all of these key terms. This is going to get very, very, very boggy, all right, and kind of mucky if you try to write out definitions for all of these terms. We will pick out a few of these to look at this week, but don't worry about figuring out what all of these terms mean, okay? Because they really throw a lot of them at you here in this Greek section, all right? But the big thing to focus on for Thursday, all right, and I want to talk about a little bit for Thursday, is this 5.5 geography, topography. Topography is an interesting word. Does anybody know? I'll stop sharing. We'll come back and we'll talk about a little chat here. Does anybody know what the word topography means? If you do, you can, type it in or unmute yourself. What is topography? There's geography. Then there's a word called topography, which is another interesting word. Let's see how fast maybe you guys can. Okay, good. Garrett, elevation on land. Excellent. So topography deals with how the land moves this way. Okay. Elevation. How far are you above sea level? How are you at sea level? Okay. Topography deals with things like, one of the things that we're going to deal with the Greeks, and we're going to look at with the Greeks, is how extremely mountainous their territory is. Okay. There is very little flat land in Greece, very little flat land. Okay. And the flat land that is, see, here's the thing that you need to remember about ancient cultures and classical cultures, and even in the modern world. Is it easy to grow crops on mountains? Take it a yay or a nay there. Good. So you're shaking your heads. No, it's extremely difficult to grow, sustenance crops on mountainsides, meaning crops that feed large populations. You can grow certain things on mountainsides like grapes and olives and those types of things, but those aren't like going to feed populations. Okay. In order to grow the crops that feed large groups of people, to make cities, to feed armies, you need flat, arable, good land to grow, your cereals and your barleys and your wheats and those types of things. All right. And that type of land is going to be really, really, really scarce in Greece. And when that land is scarce in Greece, you're going to get lots of wars over that land. Okay. So one of the things that we're going to talk about with the Greeks is it's a very, very, very militaristic and in some ways violent warfare type culture, right? Because the little city states that we're going to talk about, Athens in Greece, Sparta, okay, we're going to look at all these little different cities, and they're not going to function as cities, okay? And that's why the Greeks have this word called a city-state that I want you to get used to this week. The Greeks have a word called a city-state, and in essence, it functions kind of like a nation, okay? They're like little mini nations. All right, what would be a little mini nation? All right, if you're looking at, that's each city. So imagine, guys, in the modern world, it would be like Cincinnati, Columbus, Dayton, Lexington, Louisville, all the cities around our local region, each had their own little army. They each had their own god that we prayed to, okay? So the Greeks in many ways are going to be unified by certain things, and they're going to be divided and completely separate by certain things. All right. So that's a big thing to focus on this week, and I'll type that into the chat here. All right. What does kind of each city have in common with each other? And essentially, how do they differ is going to be a big thing for you guys to focus on during this week. What do they have in common? How do they differ? Okay, so those are going to be some things I want you to focus your reading on as we get into this week. Other than that, like I said, we're going to kind of ease our way into the Greeks over the next couple days. Check Canvas. We'll get some early kind of Greek videos that kind of work your way into the topic. And then when we get back in here on Thursday at 11, we'll really kind of ramp up and start to get into what we want to do with the Greeks Thursday and then into and over the weekend, where we'll do some PowerPoint notes and we'll do a CPA and those types of things. So guys, the big thing this week is quiz. Make sure that you take that some point this week and prep yourself and get ready for that. And then ease your way, make your way into chapter 5 of the Greeks, focusing on geography, section 5.5, and then what do the Greeks have in common and how do they differ? Okay, those are our big things to focus on this week. And you know, like I said, that's about it. We're not going to be we weren't going to be in here very long today because hopefully you guys are getting ready for quiz this week. All right. Does anyone else have any questions in the chat that they can care to throw in? If not, like I said, we can just meet for you know, our half hour today and get ready for the rest of the week. I'll give it a second or two. Good to see everybody. Glad everybody's here. Nothing. All right. You guys are still kind of shy. I'll get you out of your little shells here eventually. All right. Still only early September. We'll get some good chats going. When we get into the Spartans, man, you guys are gonna have some things to say. I got a feeling. All right. The Spartans get a little out there. All right. And we'll get into them this week and then over the weekend. All right. If you do got any questions on the quiz that you couldn't think of or didn't want to think of or didn't want to throw in the chat, send me an email on those. And then remember, if you get into the quiz and your internet craps out or something happens to where it kind of kicks you out of the quiz, don't panic. Just send me a message and I'll get you back in and reopen that thing back up for you. Because that happens to, you know, usually one person throughout the semester is they're chugging along on the quiz and then like zap, like something happens to the internet or the Wi-Fi craps out and then you're like, uh-oh. And you can't, I don't allow students to kind of get in and get out of the quizzes and enter in and enter out because that's not fair. All right. So when you click that quiz button, you got to complete that quiz during that 60 to 90 minute time frame that you've chosen. But like I said, if something happens and your computer loses power or power goes out or the Wi-Fi craps out, don't worry about it. Send me a message and I'll get you right back in. Okay. So if that is the case, then no, good. Nobody else has anything in there. All right, friends, 11:30, half hour in the Zoom, and we will see you all Thursday at 11 to get into the Greeks. All right. Good luck on the quiz this week. And until Thursday, my friends, take care and cheers to you and yours.